Our first speaker is Catherine Scruggs, followed by Janine Brundage.
Okay. Ms. Scruggs.
Chair Garvey, board members, I'm concerned this feasibility study to serve Gates of Ballston and Arlington View Terrace comprising 542 units is too limited. Last April, retired English learner teachers heard that many English learner students were unable to connect for distance learning. They began volunteer tutoring one-to-one online. I'm one of these 24 tutors who call ourselves abuelitas or grandmas. We found out many students had no internet access but for a cell phone. Our only means to tutor was WhatsApp on our phones, and that is difficult. This fall, we heard of parents so frustrated with getting online with the APS-provided devices and internet essentials, they were ready to give up. Other students we have lost touch with. APS reports that 97% of households now have internet access, but that means about 750 households with students are still without access. Many more were already denied education in the spring. So right now, we're looking at something that could result in a few more getting real internet access, but frankly, it's too late and not good enough. I know that you understand the urgency of extending access to all qualifying households, but what about small businesses and first-generation college students? We advocates believe that a broadband authority will be a better, faster, and cheaper solution to what is an egregious shortcoming in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scruggs.
Our next speaker is Janine Brundage, followed by Caroline Coram. Janine, you just need to unmute yourself using your microphone icon.
Sorry. Okay. Good evening to the members of the county board and to the community. My name is Janine Brundage, and I'm a retired APS English learner teacher and Arlington resident. In my retirement, I've been involved in ESL teacher candidate evaluation at George Mason University. For Arlington schools, I have been involved in the testing of elementary EL students, for example, the WIDA access testing. And I've participated in program evaluations for the language arts, social studies, and science departments. That's a little bit of my background. I've been mentoring an APS English learner elementary students since the summer with the same group that Ms. Scruggs has mentioned in her presentation. And the only way we've been able to effectively communicate has been through FaceTime on our iPhones. I have had to hold my phone up to my computer screen show my student an online website for reading. The Wi-Fi connectivity my student has is extremely slow and unreliable. While the family has a hotspot from the school, it is inadequate. In addition, when the children are with their babysitter in her apartment, the Wi-Fi is also unreliable. So in addition to my teaching experience and recent discussions with teachers about their experiences with virtual learning, I see the need for internet access. It is extremely acute. The procedures for students to log into, for example, My Access APS, and then enter the secure portal called Clever, followed by downloading the apps for individual subjects, such as Lexia for reading, for example, require reliable internet access. Students are also submitting homework and class assignments via Seesaw. It is a daunting procedure, I think, for both teachers and students. I do applaud the efforts of the school system and the county board in providing internet access as best they can. And the consent agenda number 34 is a step in the right direction. but I would like to encourage the board to expand the feasibility study to evaluate the possibility of a local broadband authority that could provide broadband access to all residents. I think we need a more long-term, more sustainable solution at this point. And I see that education in a post-pandemic Arlington will have to deal with the digital divide. I think that now we're at a point of no return. Thank you very much for letting me address the board.
Thank you.
Hey, Madam Chair, Caroline Karam has not joined us this evening, so I'm going to move ahead to Charles Head,
Okay.
followed by Tim Dempsey.
Oh, hi.
Followed by Tim Dempsey.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Caroline says she's still waiting to get in.
Okay, thank you for that. We will contact her.
Thank you.
We will move to Charles Head.
All right, thank you for letting me speak. Unlike the first two ladies who have good educational background, I'm just an old retired guy. However, I do like to work with computers. Broadband internet access in the United States costs more than anywhere else in the world, except in third world countries. Arlington is no exception to this observation. 10 to 16% of Arlington households don't have internet access. Broadband internet access is becoming a necessary aspect of life, as we've just heard, for education, but for medical care as well. In Arlington, we currently have a duopoly for internet access. This is almost certainly not going to change if left to private enterprise. It is irresponsible not to look for options to improve this situation. A broadband authority appears to offer a solution to this situation. It's been proven to be workable elsewhere in the United States. This includes in other parts of Virginia, including in cities that own their own streets. Please include consideration of a broadband authority in this study. Don't let yourself be misled by people who say there are legal problems when this solution is already in operation elsewhere in Virginia right now. If other parts of Virginia can do it, we can too. Thank you for considering these points.
Thank you, Mr. Head.
Our next speaker is Tim Dempsey, followed by Vendetta Cassell.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep, just fine.
Great, okay. So respected members of the Arlington County Board, my name is Tim Dempsey, and I'm speaking on behalf of the All Fiber Collective. We're a group of mostly Arlington residents that have spent the last year and a half exploring how we can bridge the digital divide in Arlington and provide low-cost, high-speed internet service to the whole community, starting with the most underserved. While we were making some modest progress on a community broadband project, the onset of the pandemic and the ensuing mass transition to online life, particularly as concerns school and healthcare, made us realize that there needed to be an immediate comprehensive action by an entity with far more resources and expertise than we had, namely Arlington County. In that regard, we welcome and support the proposed feasibility study, as we agree that with staff that this is likely to be the most expedient path forward in terms of helping the most people in the shortest amount of time. Moreover, we think it has the potential to provide very valuable data that could better inform a strategic vision for expanding reliable and qualitative access throughout the county. Strategic vision, however, is the key term here. We believe that this study should be expanded to explore whether a broadband authority can be used as the vehicle to execute this project and replicate it elsewhere. Alternatively, we ask that you commission a separate study looking at the use of a broadband authority to build a countywide, fiber to the home, open access, software-defined network that would provide service to whomever it wants and to whomever wants it. Under this model, infrastructure is separated from services, allowing the public to own, build out, and maintain the telecommunications infrastructure, while allowing private entities to compete virtually over that public infrastructure to provide service. This model was pioneered by the city of Ammon in Idaho, which is now deemed to have the cheapest high-speed internet service in the world. Several cities similar in size in Arlington are now studying how to emulate it. We believe this model will be more sustainable in the long run. It would balance public investment and control with private innovation, while also creating a larger base of subscribers, whereby institutional and wealthier segments of the subscriber base could potentially help subsidize the poorer segment, with the former still paying far lower costs for superior service. It is even possible that we could replicate Ammon's debt-free approach to building a network through local improvement districts. In closing, we ask you to think big and strategically and consider the possibilities and benefits, not just the barriers and the costs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey.
Our next speaker is Benedetta Cassell, followed by Jeff Elkner.
Yeah.
Good evening. First, let me applaud the work of Arlington's Digital Equity Group in bringing forward creative ideas to help our residents get essential internet services. Nearly 10 years ago, Arlington made a strategic investment. It chose to build a fiber network to provide its own internet services rather than be dependent upon a large internet company. That investment in infrastructure more than paid for itself. Now we found that Arlington residents, as opposed to the county itself, are dependent on large telecoms to provide essential services. And many of our residents are left with insufficient speeds, prohibitive rates, or no service at all. Will Arlington do for its residents what it chose to do for itself? We are at a crossroads. Arlington can continue to address these problems in a reactive, piecemeal fashion, or we can directly address the problem by providing services to our most vulnerable residents. But wait, Arlington cannot directly provide services. Over the past 25 years, the large telecoms have lobbied for legislation that essentially prohibits a municipality from providing internet services to its own residents. Fortunately, in 2003, a visionary Democratic delegate from Southwest Virginia patroned a bill that would allow a municipality to create a broadband authority, empowered to provide internet services directly to residents. The bill garnered bipartisan support and was signed into law by Governor Mark Warner. Imagine how nimble we could be in addressing the crisis if Arlington had a broadband authority. Instead of commissioning a study, we could use the $60,000 to lay fiber and provide the services. Since 2003, 30 municipalities in Virginia have formed broadband authorities. During that time, the large telecoms have tried and failed to change the law. They sued authorities saying the law doesn't say what it says, and they lost. A growing group of Arlingtonians have asked the county board to consider forming a broadband authority. It's against this backdrop that we see the current proposal for a feasibility study. Not to take the bold action that is needed, but to study whether to provide internet to 2 affordable housing complexes, a fraction of the households needing crucial services. Again, we applaud the county's effort, but respectfully submit that the need is much greater. 10 years ago, visionaries in Arlington took the bold step of providing our own internet service to county buildings and saved the county millions of dollars. We built excess capacity that could be used to provide service to all Arlingtonians. Our residents are in desperate need of high-quality service during this crisis and into the future. Now is the time for bold and visionary action, not for an anemic proposal. We ask you to use these funds to study the feasibility of setting up a broadband authority to provide services to these 2 housing complexes and potentially to more residences in Arlington. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Our next speaker is Jeff Elkner, followed by Dan Schuler.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jeff Elkner, and I'm a resident of the Arlington Mill community. I'm also a teacher at the Arlington Career Center. I'm here tonight to add my voice of support to any effort that can result in broader community and public access to internet services. As an IT teacher, I understand full well that access to the internet at the beginning of the 3rd decade of the 21st century is not a luxury. It is a necessity, simple as that. I now meet my students each day online, and anyone with inadequate internet access is at a severe disadvantage. That was true before the pandemic. It is much more so now. So I appeal to you, board members, to act in the interest of our community, broadly defined. We are living in a time of crisis. The last time we were in a crisis like this, it took a decade of labor militancy and a world war to get us out of it. This time, I don't know what it will take, but I do know that the market and the private sector is not going to provide us with the solutions we need. I graduated from high school in 1979, which is roughly the last time the working class in our country received a raise in real wages. Inequality has been increasing ever since, as Thomas Piketty documented so well in Capital in the 21st Century. Things have been getting more unequal for decades, and now they are about to get much worse. The market does a terrible job of taking care of the needs of those of us most at risk. Drive by the Career Center on food distribution days, and that reality is abundantly apparent. It is ourselves, in the form of our schools, our community organizations, and our local governments, to whom we need to turn in times like these. The county board already made a huge mistake, in my view, pandering to the interests of one of the largest tech oligarchs in our nation, and many folks in my community are already suffering as a result. I humbly ask you on behalf of myself, my students, and my neighbors to begin to rethink your approach to meeting our community need for internet service and to begin to act in a way that builds wealth and equity rooted in our local community instead of funneling it up to those who already have far, far more than they could ever use. For my part, I promise to do what I can, both at the ballot box and beyond it, to help create the political climate that will make it easier for you to do the right thing by creating a broadband authority for Arlington. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Elkner.
Our next speaker is Dan Schuler.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. I've spent 14 years living in apartments in Arlington County. For that entire time, Comcast was my only choice for internet service. I paid around $100 a month for service from Comcast that was frankly bad. It was slower than advertised, cut out intermittently. Customer service, of course, was terrible. And I had no recourse because the alternative was not having internet access. Even without COVID, broadband internet access is something required to be a full participant in modern society. So the experience made me keen to attend the panel put on by Arlington Fiber and Arlington Democrats a few months ago. And I knew Comcast had been ripping me off all these years, but my jaw dropped when I heard just how badly. Both localities that participated in the panel had implemented community broadband, went from an average price of about $100 per month with a year contract to $25 a month with no contract. I did the math, and I would have saved about $12,600 over those 14 years. $12,000. Given that other localities in Virginia have implemented community broadband, I see no reason why Arlington's goal shouldn't be to provide cheap internet access to all its residents. I'm disappointed to see that this feasibility study has so small a scope. Everyone in Arlington, regardless of income level, deserves to be freed from the effective monopoly that companies like Comcast have been using to rip us off. The Postal Service was created in 1775 to provide a way for all Americans to reliably stay connected to the world around them. It was a broadband internet of its day. The Postal Service still routinely tops the list of most popular government agencies. An Arlington Broadband Authority, which would allow residents to save hundreds of dollars a year and jettison the relationship with a universally disliked company like Comcast, would almost certainly be equally beloved. Let's do it here. Let's follow the lead of the Eastern Shore and the other localities in Virginia that have already done it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schuler.
Okay, Madam Chair, we have Caroline Corum on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Caroline Corum, and I live here in Arlington. And I've been active with the Arl Fiber group, which is a group of mostly Arlington residents that have been exploring the digital divide and issues around cost with high-speed broadband, and especially how it affects the whole community and ways to get more cost-effective service to the whole community and to the most underserved in particular. I share similar complaints to ones that have already been expressed about the really excessive cost of internet service in my neighborhood. I essentially only have one viable provider. I pay more for internet service than I think I do for electricity and gas combined. So basically, it's more than basic utilities. And it's essential for modern life. I think we all acknowledge that. And so I am encouraged and want to support the feasibility study that's been proposed and hope that it will be completed in the shortest time possible. I think that it's essential to provide very valuable data and broaden the strategic scope about reliable and high quality service for the county. I think the study should explore whether a broadband authority could be used as a vehicle to provide service within the county. I would ask the commission to look at that prospect or consider a separate study to evaluate that issue. A broadband, fiber to the home, open access service for anyone who wants and needs it would be an excellent addition to our county, and it would provide greatly improved infrastructure and service that is critical to the public, especially at times like this with a pandemic, and also with a modernizing workforce and expectations around being able to work whenever, wherever you are. It's essential that that type of service be available within the county. And I think it really will impact the county's prospects for economic development in the long term. There are other models out there about how this can be done well and cost effectively. We know that Arlington already has the backbone for this structure in place, and I would strongly encourage the county to look at appropriate options. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parham. Was that a speaker?
Yes, Madam Chair, that was our final speaker.